So I have a traditional Palestinian dish called musakhan, which means basically in Arabic means heated up, so it's warmed up.
Okay.
It's a chicken dish, and it's the trick here, or what really does the dish, is sumac, which is a spice that's typical of the region. So typical Turkish, Persian.
I was smelling as you were pouring out. That's got a
Yeah.
nice pungent kind
It's
of
very
tangy
tart.
sort of thing going on. Yeah.
So it's originally a fruit that grows in bushes, and they dry it up, and then ground it. And so that's what really makes the trick. It's tart, and then it mixes well with other tastes of like the pine kernels and the chicken and so forth. And I'm doing an updated version, which is less traditional because the traditional one is just a big mess. And it takes forever to make.
Perfect.
Cool. So let's start with the chicken. We're gonna do a quick marinade. So we'll start with some olive oil. Then the juice of 1 lemon. Lemon is really good for any marinade, especially like all our marinades back home involve lemon, and it's a nice way to get rid of that smell of raw chicken.
Right.
So it's really very useful.
Smells pretty good already.
So both our lemons are squeezed. And then just a bit of spices, so it's kind of equivalent to like something of a dry rub.
Okay.
So half a teaspoon of allspice. I got my own allspice from back home, which has like a combination of 12 spices, but you could use.
So if you were going to make this at home, you could go ahead and use allspice.
Yeah, the classic. Yeah, exactly. It will still work. Just half a teaspoon. And then you want to sprinkle some sumac.
And what about the sumac? Is that going to be easy to find, or is that like a Middle Eastern sort of boutique thing?
Yeah, exactly. So you go to specialty stores, but you also order online.
Okay.
And honestly, I really suggest that you actually order some and just use it for other things. It works with so many other dishes.
Okay.
With salads, and just adds a nice tart aspect to it. It has this very deep purple color, which really works well. So I'm gonna add some of that here.
Is there a story behind the dish?
Personal story, actually, with the band. Like, I would always, when I lived in France, and Ash and I would sometimes drive over from Amsterdam, and we'd have these intensive sessions locked in our house, and I would always make the onions beforehand.
Right.
And we'll just get a roast chicken, and we'll make musakhan. Just remember the good old days, because we grew up eating this stuff.
So you can do that then. You can make the onions ahead of time and just put
That's
them in
the
the
good thing, exactly. So you can make the onions beforehand, keep them in the fridge in a Tupperware. You can make the chicken the night before, just let it marinate, and then and then next day you just.
So when everybody shows up, you can assemble it.
Right.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy. And I have everything in there, and now you just wanna, dirty up your hands.
Dirty.
Exactly. So just get things mixed up a bit. And I'm just gonna ask you to sprinkle some paprika. I'm just using my hands. So just a bit, just to give it some. A bit more. Good, yeah. That's good. So the paprika is really just there for like color. I think it doesn't add that much taste, I think, because the other spices will be more prominent.
Right.
But it's gonna give it this nice color that will. I think you eat with your eyes also.
Oh, absolutely.
So.
Wonderful.
Okay, I think we're good to go. So I'm gonna put this in the fridge first of all.
I can take care of that for you.
And now the onions. So that's what really makes the dish, is the caramelized onions.
There's a whole lot of things in 3.
There's a lot, yeah. But trust me, once they cook down, they're really reduced.
Okay.
So
these are just regular yellow onions, right?
Right. You could use any kind of onions, but you want those that caramelize the most.
Okay.
And I think yellow onions caramelize really well.
Okay.
So a good trick with onions is to sprinkle water over the knife, unless you want to try on camera.
Does it actually take the?
It's really useful. Or you could cut with your shades. That's very metal too. But I'm gonna.
That would be. Is this a pretty traditional dish back in Jerusalem?
It's the typical Palestinian dish, I think. So our cuisine shares a lot with the regions.
Right.
We have a lot of things in common with Lebanese cuisine, Turkish, Greek, but this dish is typically Palestinian.
Stands out as being specifically Palestinian.
Right. But although sumac is typical to like Persian and Turkish cuisine, but somehow they just haven't figured out that dish yet. So at least that's our contribution.
Is this something that you make for great big get-togethers and family kind of things?
Yeah.
Back home.
And I do the more user-friendly version because I'm making this usually for myself or for a bunch of friends.
Right.
And that's why I go for like a wrap format. And I think people who want to reproduce this will have an easier time making it because you're just caramelizing onions and just have a wrap basically, chicken wrap with caramelized onions. So basically you want to have your pan on medium heat because olive oil, as I said, like burns quickly.
Right.
So keep it on medium.
Okay.
Throw in some like 4 tablespoons of olive oil. And usually when you saute things, you wait for the oil to cook. In this case, just throw in the onions automatically.
Right on.
Yeah, because they're gonna take some time to caramelize. So throw everything in there.
And that's a good quality olive oil as well, right?
Right.
And that makes a difference.
It does make a difference. Usually you don't cook with extra virgin because it's so strong and nutty, but you want the taste here, so obviously you'll go with that.
Okay. How long do these take about?
So these basic caramelizing is you have to wait for the onions to release their natural sugars. That takes around 20 minutes.
Okay.
And you're gonna keep on stirring them, but I have a few tricks to help the caramelizing process. One of them is to add a bit more sugar.
Okay.
That's a trick, but it actually helps the onions release their natural sugars as well. So you're gonna throw in, I just put in half, like a tablespoon of sugar.
Okay.
And the second thing I like to do is, and that's not typical of the dish, is I always throw in like a serrano pepper in there, just to give it some heat.
Right.
And that's something I do with most of my cooking, is I just always throw in a pepper in there.
Wow. I'm not opposed to the heat at all.
Right. It just always adds the nice.
And that's customizable as well. If you're making this at home, you didn't need to do that at all.
No.
It doesn't take away from the dish at all. Correct?
Nothing.
Okay.
And you can control for the heat. Remove the seeds, you have less heat. Change, if you want a lot of heat, add habanero pepper.
Okay.
And so salt actually.
Like, those just cook it up nice and smell. It's good.
Yeah, kind of.
Wow.
So you'd add something like a teaspoon of salt.
Okay.
I mean, now I'm just gonna, with all of these ingredients, you're just gonna taste.
Right.
There's no strict formula.
Okay.
If you want it to be more tart, you'll add more sumac. If it's more spicy, you'll add more.
Okay.
So it's really do it as you wish. Now I'm gonna keep on adding salt as I go on. Some pepper.
So you don't slice that pepper up, you just leave it in there to sort of steep?
Yeah, it's gonna naturally release like the hot stuff.
Right.
Cold this way.
But when you're biting into it at home, you're not gonna have, or when you're biting
Actually,
into it, but you're not gonna have the.
No, because it's gonna go away.
Right. Okay.
You can eat it. I usually throw it away. But.
Right.
And then the secret to it all is again the sumac.
That's the magic.
That's the magic. And you just throw something like 3 tablespoons or 4 in there. And I might adjust. I might add a bit more later, depending on. And then it's you might get this nice purple color, which makes the dish basically. Okay, so let's leave this cook for a while.
Okay.
And we're gonna throw in the chicken in there. Line them up.
And then we're gonna put these in the oven at 375.
375 for 25 minutes.
Okay.
So while the onions are cooking,
Mm-hmm.
we wanna bake the chicken.
Okay.
So depending on what you're using, if you're using boneless, we're going to go for skinless. We'll go for like 25 minutes.
Okay.
375. With bone and with skin, you're going to add some more time.
Okay. And we're at 375 for, what'd you say, about 20 minutes?
25. 25 to 30, depends how. So now, this is like a side dish with the msakhan. I'm making tzatziki, which is a typical Greek yogurt dish with cucumber. Although we have varieties of this throughout the Middle East. Okay. So we know by its Greek name and it's fine. And this has like yogurt, is a nice combination because you're gonna get like the fat and the olive oil and the spiciness.
Right.
And
Take a little heat off.
exactly. So the yogurt is a nice complement to this.
Would you find something similar to this on a Palestinian table?
Yeah.
Along?
Yeah, easily. Or you can have like a simple Greek salad, but I just thought I would
right.
go with this. So we have 16 ounces of low-fat Greek yogurt.
Okay.
And I'm gonna have a cucumber that I'm gonna peel. And what I'm gonna do with the cucumber too, is I'll show you that I'm gonna seed it, because the cucumbers have a lot of water in them.
Right.
And if you're just gonna add them as they are to the yogurt, we'll just soak it with lots of just add too much water and then you'll have like a watery dip.
Okay, so you can take out the seeds totally.
Yeah, and that will just at least will maintain some of the thick texture of the yogurt.
Okay. I see you've got some mint going on as well.
Yeah, mint is also a nice combination. What you do is you cut it in half. Get a spoon.
Spoon right in there somewhere.
And then you just remove seeds.
So just like you do with cantaloupes or honeydews or anything, that sort of thing.
Cucumber seeds taste, there's nothing wrong with the taste, it's just about the texture basically.
Right.
So once you have that done, on the side. So once you have chopped and seeded the cucumbers, just mix it.
And again, that's just low-fat Greek yogurt?
That's it.
16 ounces?
Yep. And if you just don't want to get Greek yogurt, just strain normal yogurt.
Okay. And this is going to be very similar to the gyro sauce that you put in?
Right. So if you had a gyro, like a Greek restaurant, they usually have this as like a dip.
Right. Okay.
And I'm going to throw in the juice of... For now, I'll put a bit less than half a lemon because I don't know how hard this is.
And again, we're using real lemons.
Always real. Always go real. When you play music or food, don't fake it. And for the garlic, so we don't have a garlic presser, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finely chop the garlic. So what you do is you finely chop the garlic. And then you add salt.
Right to the garlic itself.
And then you're going to crush it, and the salt helps you crush the garlic.
Okay. That's an interesting trick. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, you could. So if you're making aioli,
right,
you do that, and then you just chop. You just squash. And again, raw garlic, you want to add as much. You could decide to put less because some people just don't like the taste of raw garlic. And then, last but not least, you're gonna add a bit of mint.
Okay.
And that's gonna give it a nice fresh flavor to it. Okay.
Right.
Our onions are pretty much done here. You want to see, so basically the onions are tiny, they're not thick anymore.
Right.
And that's when you know that they're good enough. And you always want to taste just to see if it needs more sweetness, more saltiness. And if it's too tart, if you added too much sumac, just throw in an extra like half an onion, and then it will mix. So the last step is frying up the pine kernels.
Okay.
So this is always a nice addition in these dishes. Gives a nice nutty taste to it. And the trick here is this overcooked burns quickly and very easily.
Okay.
So I want you to get me like a spatula, a wooden spatula if possible, or something small. As I said, I'm going to use canola oil instead of olive oil here. Again, because olive oil is very strong, and pine kernels have a strong nutty taste too.
Right.
They're going to absorb the olive oil and it'll become a bit bitter. So canola oil is very neutral and has a higher burning point, so you should I think the chicken is done, so maybe while this heats, let's remove
to the pause.
So, I mean, I'm just gonna add something like, I think 1 teaspoon per serving, 1 tablespoon per serving.
Okay.
But this is good stuff, so sometimes we'll want to add it.
I'm not too familiar with them, and they're not that popular here in my neck of the woods, but I've had them in some meals.
Italian food has a lot.
Yeah, Italian food for sure.
Anything Mediterranean will have pine kernels, And what we want to keep on stirring it. Don't stop because it burns very easily.
Okay.
So just keep on moving it, and then it'll quickly brown. We have the caramelized onions, the fried pine nuts, baked chicken thighs, and for bread I just use flour tortillas.
Okay.
It's easy to wrap them. You could go for pita bread if you want to be creative. Go get like Indian naan bread.
Right.
But you can't roll this, so the Indian naan bread you'll just have to go. You can't roll it. Yeah.
Right.
You might want to just like add some onions and
Okay.
toast it in the oven a bit. But we're gonna go for wraps. Cut the chicken in thin slices.
Okay.
Just so it will be easy to assemble.
That's crazy.
And you're gonna spoon in some of the onions.
So nice healthy serving of the onions there.
Yeah. And it depends on what the onions are really. I really like it, so I'm gonna spoon a lot. But you want to be able to roll it, so don't.
Okay. Don't overstuff.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be too ambitious. And pine kernels. And again, you could spoon in more if you wanted to. I'm just gonna go for this. Chicken. I'm just gonna with clean hands. Throwing that in there.
It assembles pretty quickly.
It does, yeah. And then I'm gonna roll it. So this is the final step. We've rolled our chicken in the caramelized onion, and now what I like to do is to fry the tortilla a bit just to give it this nice texture.
Crispiness,
Right, exactly. So what you want to do is you want to be able to have some of the taste of the onions you already cooked and the chicken. So we dispose of the onions, unfortunately, but what I'm going to use is some of the chicken fat that was left from the...
Right.
Because this has a lot of flavor. So we're just going to throw some of that in there. The part where you seal tortilla is what you want to fry first.
Okay.
Because once you fry it, it closes nicely.
Down, right.
Yeah. So let's put this here. And we could throw in two in there. You want to leave some room because then you just want to be able to turn it. And just let it get a nice little crust.
This looks great. We're here at my favorite part of the episode here, so if you're ready, Ashley, Bala,
Begin.
give this a shot.
You can use your hands.
Can I use my hands? I think it'll be much more comfortable.
This is really good. This is something different that I've never had before.
There's a whole bunch of flavors in here I've never had before, but this is fantastic.
And the yogurt balance as well.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.